I'm going to be reading this book is also the Wild West, but it's Los Angeles during the riots in 1992. So it's a little different kind of wildness. And it's really, it's about three friends who are all bohemians. They're all 20-somethings, and they're facing a very reluctant adulthood. Gwen is the protagonist, and she's been working as a stripper to put herself through graduate school in poetry. And just before the riots break out, she realizes that she is, in fact, pregnant. Her boyfriend, Leo, is an out-of-work musician who's been standing on a street corner to hawk his music, or try to, and dressed as an American revolutionary. He's also been smoking a lot of very strong pot and hatching these schemes that he doesn't follow through on. And then their best friend is Count Valiant, and he lives upstairs. If any of you know LA, they live in the Miracle Mile. And he's a nightclub singer who is dying of AIDS as glamorously as he possibly can. And really much in the same way that LA is the city of dreams, and during the riots it's forced to confront and come to terms with its kind of self-delusions. As you all know, like certain socioeconomic and political disparities having become undeniable. These three characters have to face truths about themselves. But anyway, this first scene, I'm just going to read a bit of a couple scenes. The first scene takes place during the curfew of the first night of the riots. And they're in, it's Gwen and Valiant in his apartment. It's 3 a.m. And they have decided that they are going to handcuff Leo and take him to Tijuana, because he is determined, thinks he's going to at least walk into East LA naked, holding a white flag as a protest and peace. Yeah. So anyhow, the handcuffs were easy to find. They were just where Valiant said they'd be, in the top left drawer of his bureau, under the Super Shaper briefs with the snap-on endowment and the butt enhancer pads. The briefs that were black and silky and spongy like a padded bra, and which Gwen couldn't help but give a little pinch before pulling the handcuffs and the key from the drawer. "Now where to find rope," she said, walking into the living room. Valiant straightened his black rocker wig and fitted the tiara over it. He poured himself a tall vodka tonic, lit a cigarette, and lay back on his gold velvet fainting couch. He inhaled, breathing the smoke, drawing it deep into his cells. Exhaling, he seemed to relax as the nicotine hit. 3 left, he said, closing the box. "I don't know if our escapade can wait till morning." Gwen stood away from the smoke at the open window, fiddling with the handcuffs. She closed one cuff around her wrist. At its last notch, it was just small enough to hold her hand. She felt the cold metal around her wrist and wondered whom Valiant had used these on, or, as seemed more likely the case, who had used them on him. He hadn't had a lover since she'd known him. Before that, she knew there had been both men and women. The handcuffs made her think of the video the three of them had watched once, Leo, the Count, and her. One the Count owned, a gay prison porno. The jailer and the jailed, the guard and his prisoner, the one with no choice but to submit. She turned the cuff around her wrist. She had found the video fascinating. She could only half look, and yet it had turned her on. Right now, Leo was sleeping on the sofa, and she wanted to go home and rouse him. She wanted him to wake up strong and hungry, alive. She wanted him to handcuff her to the bedposts and take her in every way he wanted. She wanted him to speak to her in Italian and order her into position. She wanted to be made to open, to let go, to submit. It had been years since he'd taken her in this way. I figured I could read that since it's a pub. It's 21-year-olds, except, I'm sorry, the baby. So this next, it's the end of this next scene that I'll read next, and it takes place the next morning. Leo was talking, and she only half heard. He was talking about eggs, tiny red eggs in a nest. She was getting pieces of his dream, like Sappho's poems preserved in the mouths of mummified crocodiles, like those fragments that survived. Everything was tastier in pieces, more mysterious. There was all that white space around them, room in which to doodle and drift, blanks you could fill in yourself. Blood orange, she heard him say. It was sky and water in one. I could breathe and swim through the tops of trees. Like a birdfish, she said to show she was listening. Valiant, having changed from his robe into his riot wear, joined them at the round wooden table littered with ashtrays filled with ash, with the sketches of Leo as the naked savior, and with the fruit too soft to eat, green, shrunken apples and oranges collapsing in on themselves like dying stars. She and Valiant drank their coffee. Leo drank his tea and smoked, taking a break in the story of his dream to inhale, to hold the smoke in his lungs. He passed the bong to Gwen, who straightaway passed it to Valiant, who packed it with fresh dope and smoked. It seemed to calm him, enough so that his hand was steady when he lit another cigarette. You were on the edge of something, Leo said to Gwen. And it was as if he'd reached into her chest, grabbed hold of her heart, and squeezed. He'd always had this ability, to know just where she was, to intuit it. A cliff, he said. No, it was a house. It was where we lived, but it was old, ancient, with these high walls, and you were on the edge of it, on the roof. And it was crumbling, the wall, the whole structure was falling, turning to a desert. You were alone, walking on the sand, and he laughed. I was this mouse, and you picked me up. You were so, so benevolent, Gwen. You were this gorgeous giant. A wave of exhaustion washed over her. She didn't want to be benevolent, nor did she care to be huge. Leo was talking, and she closed her eyes, letting his voice mix with her need for sleep. She felt the kitchen sway as though they were on a ship far out at sea. She opened her eyes. Leo was silent, and so was Valiant. Everyone in their own world, all right here at one table. There was mist around them, that rare morning light in which the sun's rays, made visible by the smoke, had dust motes dancing inside them, swirling, and it hit her. This moment wouldn't return, not ever, not the sun through the soft, burned Los Angeles air, through their torn window screen, not the two scrubby faces she adored, not the coffee steaming. 1992 would be gone before they knew it. It would be another year, and she'd be someone else. She'd be a mother, if she dared. And where would Valiant be? How much longer could he hold on to the body he tried so hard to destroy, onto the flimsy sunlight and spare Los Angeles oxygen, so the tunes only he could hear might come through him and into the world? How much longer? And what of Leo? Would this be the end of her time with him? Would she drive off one night and never look back? Or would he stay in her life for years? He was all artist, sitting here in his white Thomas Jefferson shirt, maculate with drops of tea and blood and smudges of cannabis ash. Yes, with his ringlets loose to his shoulders, with his easy smile, he looked beautiful. The morning held in this lull a sense of possibility. The three of them could go where they liked. For now, they were due south, but they were free to change their course. They could head east or west or north, anywhere really. But for this instant, in which there was quiet, in which there wasn't any wind, only a pale yellow light surrounding, buoying, filling them, they were still, suspended. "You know," she said from deep inside the mist, her voice sounding far away, "we might as well tell you where we're headed." Thank you so much.